How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz. In today's video, we're going to be going over my experience at the Unova Tour event in LA. Now, this past weekend was pretty fun. It's honestly very tiring, but I wanted to share some tips and tricks that I learned along the way to help you guys better maximize your experience during the global event this upcoming weekend. And I had a few comments asking if I could share my experiences from this as well. So I'm going to be doing both. I'm going to be going over everything that I experienced, both the in-person stuff and how it can be applicable for the global event, and also just some other stuff that I want to include, like my own personal experiences catching shinies and getting hundos and all that good stuff. So let's start off with these special incense spawns. So during the global event, all players are going to be getting access to special incense spawns that attract the unknown letters Unova. Now at the in-person event, the incense would only spawn either Costume Pikachu or the unknown letters, so I'd expect this to be pretty consistent during the global event as well. Shiny Unknown are some of the rarest Pokemon to get in the game since they're only available during major events of Pokemon Go like this, and so I would strongly recommend running your incense the entire time during the global event to give yourself the best chance at actually getting one of these. I was actually able to get one Shiny Unknown this past weekend, and thankfully it was a new one for me. It was the Shiny Unknown letter N. But keep in mind, you need to be walking to get these spawns every minute from your incense, otherwise if you are stationary, the incense are only going to be spawning every 5 minutes. For some of you guys out there, that's perfectly fine, but I definitely think if you really want to get the most out of this, you gotta be walking. Also, when it comes down to the daily adventure incense, this will not produce the special unknown spawns or the special Pikachu spawns. I tested this during the last portion of the event, so just keep in mind you can't actually get them both. If you want to go for the Galarian birds, I would recommend doing that outside of the event hours. Next up, let's talk about the habitats. So these were location dependent inside the Rose Bowl, but they are going to rotate hourly during the global event. If you're not really sure which are the best Pokemon to focus on hunting from each respective habitat, then check out this video right here on screen. It's also going to be linked down below. Otherwise, there isn't really much else to say about the habitats between the in-person and global events, although I guess we could talk about the shiny boost, and that's definitely something I think a lot of people are curious about, since that was directly related to the wild spawns and those are related to the habitats. So the shiny rate was boosted for ticket holders at the in-person event, and this was directly stated on the official Pokemon Go website. That said though, there was no mention of a shiny boost during the global event, so I would strongly manage your expectations going into this. I'm sure many of you have already watched some of the top content creators put out videos of them getting tons of shinies at the in-person event, but without the shiny boost, even if you grinded really hard, this is probably unlikely to happen. Now personally speaking, I grinded as hard as I could during the in-person event. I was able to get 29 shinies at the park and 31 shinies during my city experience. By the end of the weekend, I was completely exhausted, but definitely satisfied with my results. Now there is a possibility that we could get a non-advertised shiny boost like a 1 out of 128 instead of a 1 out of 500 during the global event, but without any official confirmation, I don't really want to spread misinformation out there. So whether you want to agree with me or not, I am just going off the official website. If you think there's going to be a shiny boost, I mean, you can definitely be optimistic that there's going to be one, but as far as the official information and what we know so far, I have seen nothing that confirms that. Next up, let's talk about the field research. Now, these quests were color-coded to award encounters with Deerling, Basculin, or Costume Pikachu. The orange quest awarded Deerling, the yellow quest awarded Pikachu, and then the blue and red quest awarded Basculin in the respective blue or red striped forms. Now these field research quests were also focused on transfer and power-up quests, which in my opinion were actually really easy to complete. I don't think I've ever had an easier time getting field research quests done during a big event like this. So there are basically two ways you can approach the power-up quests, right? You can either sort by CP and power up the lowest level Pokemon that are applicable to that respective typing, or you can create a search tag with Pokemon you actually want to power up and then power up those Pokemon. You're definitely going to spend a lot more Stardust on the latter, but since they're Pokemon you were going to power up anyways, it won't really feel like you're wasting Stardust on random Pokemon. Now, personally speaking, I went with the second approach first, but since the field research quests were set every hour, I ended up switching to the first approach. Honestly, I didn't really lose as much Stardust as you might think. I still came out ahead overall, and I completed over 200 field research quests for my day in the park. This is honestly the most field research I have ever completed in one day, and I probably could have done even more had I learned about the proper strategies beforehand. That said though, I am definitely satisfied with the amount of field research I got done. I was able to get a Hundo Deerling and a couple shiny Basculin and Pikachu from that. Now one thing I do want to mention is in regards to stacking your field research encounters. For those unfamiliar, you can actually do this up to 100 times, but once you start going past that number, the game is automatically going to start removing them. There's also no counter to see how many Pokemon you've actually stacked in your field research stack, so the system basically works as FIFO, which stands for first in, first out. So make sure that you're going through and you're redeeming these throughout the day if you're going to be grinding these field research quests pretty hard. Like I mentioned, I completed over 200 quests in the park that day, 220 to be specific. I actually took a before and after screenshot. And in my stack, I actually had a Hundo Deerling and a Shiny Basculin. The Shiny Basculin was close to the top of my field research encounters, which means if I had actually completed like maybe 6 or 7 more, I would have lost that shiny. During most events, you don't really need to worry about this because the field research quests are kind of tedious to get done, but Niantic actually set up the field research quests really well during the in-person event, and so if it's going to be the same over the global event, it's definitely more of a good problem to have, but one you definitely want to be aware of. Next up, let's go over hatching eggs. Now, I always advocate against hatching eggs or at least spending a bunch of money on incubators, but thanks to the referral program in Pokemon Go, I had a lot of super incubators saved up, and I decided to hatch as many eggs as possible to see if I could get one of those elusive shiny regional Pokemon. I didn't purchase the Egg Lover add-on for this event, so I probably could have hatched even more if I did purchase that. The Egg Lover actually offered a 1/4 distance bonus opposed to a 1/2 distance bonus, so you actually hatched them even faster this way. Still, I was able to hatch over 80 eggs over the course of the whole weekend, so hopefully this can give you guys a better idea of what to expect. Keep in mind, my egg hatching luck is pretty awful though. So from all the eggs, I only hatched one shiny, and it was a shiny sock from a 5-kilometer egg. No Hundos either, but funny enough, I actually hatched a Hundo Sobble the day before this event. So I either redeemed my hatch luck or yeah, something along those lines. Now with that said, one of my friends who I was walking with actually hatched 3 Hundos, and one of them was a Shundo. Next up, let's talk about the legendary raids. So I did actually get the Raid Lover add-on since you get 18 orange passes to use on all 3 days. You essentially pay $15 and get a total of 54 orange passes. Now on top of that, you also get additional candy and extra large candy bonuses for every Pokemon you do catch from raid battles. So overall, this add-on is by far the best deal in my opinion. Most of you guys know that I'm free to play in Pokemon Go with the exception of the in-person events. I never buy any of the event tickets, I never pay for Pokecoins, I never do any of that stuff. But if I attend the in-person event, it's definitely one of my exceptions. I mean, I already paid for the event ticket to be there, and so the value is just so good for what you're getting. Anyways, I used every single one of those free orange passes over the weekend. Even though I didn't have a city experience ticket for Friday, I was still able to do the raids in the LA area locally. The Kyurem still came with Glaciate, which was kind of nice, but that was only because I had a ticket for the park experience on Saturday. One of my friends who I was also raiding with didn't actually have the ticket for any of the days, and they didn't get Glaciate on their Kyurem. Now overall, these raids were pretty easy to beat. White Kyurem and Black Kyurem can actually be duoed with the right counters and party play bonuses, so the raid difficulty wasn't the issue. It was actually the catch rates and the aggression mechanics. For some reason, Niantic turned these up to 11, which means they were basically on full blast. They would attack non-stop, break out of excellent curveballs with golden raspberries, and honestly, it was a bit ridiculous. I've played this game for 9 years, guys, and I've never struggled to catch legendary Pokemon as much as this, even using the Circle Lock method. Like, I was getting consistent excellent throws with golden raspberries. I mean, sure, you know, sometimes the catch rates are a bit ridiculous, but this was way different. I mean, I'm saying that as a longtime player. Arguably one of the most frustrating experiences from playing the in-person event because it took so much time to catch a Pokemon. You were wasting so much time just catching these legendary Pokemon, and that meant that you couldn't really play and do any of the other stuff. So, I mean, if this transfers over to the global event, I hope you guys have plenty of golden raspberries available, because you're definitely going to need them. Now, I do actually have a strong theory on why this may have happened. The new adventure effects are based on increased catch rates and also catch mechanics. Free Shock is going to prevent the Pokemon from moving up or down or left to right, and Ice Burn is going to slow down the target circle. That said, neither is going to prevent the Pokemon from attacking you, but you can also get that accomplished with a Nana Berry. On top of that, both adventure effects are going to offer an increased catch rate, and you know, when it comes down to it, coincidence? I think not. Now, despite this actually being the Unova Tour, there were some Pokemon missing from this roster. Mienfoo, Pawniard, Vullaby, Sandile were nowhere to be found. Keldeo was also missing, and not even through like an additional ticket like Meloetta. I mean, you would think Niantic wouldn't be shy about adding another ticket, right? But they've only added like 5 for this event. But for some reason, no Keldeo, no shiny Keldeo, no regular Keldeo, nothing. Now last year during the Sinnoh Tour, they intentionally did leave out Arceus and Manaphy, which is understandable to an extent. Like, they're both, you know, really difficult Pokemon to kind of incorporate into Pokemon Go. I can understand that, but basic Pokemon like Mienfoo, Sandile, that just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there's not going to be all the Unova Pokemon featured during this event. There's going to be some that are left out. Now, I'm pretty sure this was specific to the in-person event, but there is a possibility that it could be applicable to the global event. During the first 2 minutes of every hour, Zorua was actually spawning everywhere. Now this is similar to past in-person events where unknown would spawn everywhere for the first minute or the first 2 minutes of every hour, and again, it is unlikely that we're going to have this bonus available for the global event, but on the off chance it is, then you guys definitely need to know about this trick. So you essentially want to have a double extra large Pumpkaboo or Gourgeist as your buddy. This is going to guarantee that every Zorua you catch is also going to be double XL. I don't really understand how this works, it just does, and there's also going to be an associated medal with double extra large Pokemon. Following that, let's take a look at party play. So if you've watched some of my other prep videos by now, you already know that I've mentioned party play many times during this event, not only for the raid bonuses, but also for the extra encounters. I actually ended up getting quite a few shinies from the party play encounters, so do not sleep on these guys, seriously. Also make sure that you party up with people who are going to be proactive about completing the quests, because they do scale with party members. For example, if the task is going to be spin X Pokestops, it would be 20 for 2 players and 40 for 4 players. Next up, let's talk about routes. So routes were actually disabled during the park experience, but they were available for the city experience. I mean, naturally, right? So this should be pretty similar to the global. For the routes, I was also getting additional spawns, and they were also spawning the regionals that were locked behind 10-kilometer eggs. Now finally, let's talk about the Tour Pass / Tour Pass Deluxe. For the in-person event, I believe we were given the equivalent of the Tour Pass Deluxe. The end reward was a lucky trinket, but the rewards only went up to rank 40, whereas for the global event, the rewards are going to go up to rank 100. So that's a lot more to actually get done. But again, you do have 2 days to get it done, and everything past those ranks is just going to be Stardust rewards per rank, which is only like 50 to 100 Stardust. It's really not that much. I mean, you could definitely stack them all and then drop a star piece. That could be a good use of a star piece if you wanted to do that. Now the limit for the in-person was 250 ranks, and for the global, I believe it's 500 ranks. Since I grinded really hard during the park experience, I actually completed all 250 during that one day. Honestly, the best way to get this done would be to fast catch everything. I think that made the biggest difference. And I mean literally everything. Even the Pokemon you don't want to catch, just make sure that you fast catch them. Now the ranks are going to be based on catching, hatching, and raiding. So doing a combination of everything is going to be the best thing you can do, but I think you're going to be able to catch a lot more Pokemon in the time it would take you to hatch or even raid. And especially if the Kyurem catch rates are going to be just as bad as they were during the in-person event. I mean, we're talking like minutes just to catch one Pokemon. But at least if you catch one legendary Pokemon, it does move you up a rank, so that is kind of nice. Now one strategy you could also do, since I know a lot of you guys are going to be focused on getting that fusion energy, is to focus on raiding and have an auto catcher catching Pokemon in the background. This would be a pretty effective approach, definitely 2 birds with 1 stone. The regular Tour Pass is going to award you with a Zorua that has a special background at rank 100, and the Tour Pass Deluxe is going to award you with a lucky trinket at rank 100. Now, if you're still not sure whether the event tickets are actually worth purchasing, including the Tour Pass Deluxe for $15, then check out this video next, which analyzes every ticket offered for the Unova Tour.